Hey, what's up? Jason here from Unity3D.College. Back with another code review. This time it's a side scroller named Knuckles. So I'm going to give it a quick playthrough, show you how it plays, and then we'll dive into the code. There we go, we got the music on. So we got a shooter, we can aim, we can jump with the space bar. And eventually we're going to see some enemies. And if I don't suck too much, I'll be able to kill him. And then we can grab a shield right here. So I can kill that guy, grab another shield, and if I get far enough, you'll see I even get a little buddy to help me out. Let's see. Can I make it? Oh, I missed my jump. Oh, there we go. Skipped ahead, and now I've got the little guy there shooting with me. Jumps along. And I think you can probably get the idea here. Essentially a long-running side-scroller. And my guy died, and I died with him. So let's dive in and see how this thing's put together. The first thing I want to look at is the player, which is this tank object. And it's got quite a few scripts on it. But nothing wrong with that. I'm going to take a quick look at these. We've got a couple capsule colliders. So let's go into the scene view real quick, and let's just find that thing. Let's see what these capsule colliders are. And I can't see anything. Ah, there we go. So, okay, this is why there are multiple colliders. It's just the different shapes here instead of using a sprite collider, some capsules. It's fine, good for performance, and looks like it seems to be working great, so no issue there at all. And then we're using a rigid body to move the thing with the rotation frozen. Looks good. And then we've got, let's see, a player script, a bonus script. I'm not sure what that is. A health script. We should all probably know what that is. And to deal with the health. Player destroyer, player sound. Ooh, got all of the different sounds here. And then shield, player support. I believe this is the little guy that was following us around. So this is probably what's spawning and controlling him. And a shield. That was, I believe, the shield that was appearing around us when we picked up the little old wooden shield icon. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of these things. Let's start with something simple like a player destroyer and see how this is built. So player destroyer looks like inherits from a base class destroyer base. In start, it gets the health. Okay. And then it gets a mesh controller. And then overrides a death method, which just checks to see if it's alive and kills it. And then it's overriding an is dead. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense though unless we go into the base class. Let's take a look at the base class. The base has a limit Y and then a fixed update. So in the fixed update, it's just looking to see that if it's moved too far to the left or the is dead method is returning true. If it is, then it's calling death. So if we go back into our player destroyer, basically checking to see if this is set to true, then it calls death. So it's not really able to kill the player, is it? Let's take one more quick look. So destroyer base. Yeah, I don't see a way that this is killing the player at all. Well, let's see. Let's look at the player one more, or the player destroyer one more time. Yeah, because it's never returning true. Let's see. If we look here, enemy destroyer. This one dies if the X position is less than the limit. Okay. I read the other one wrong. Sorry. This is, where was that? In destroyer base. It's dying if the Y limit is less than 11. So if we drop down too far, it's killing us. So that's how it's working. It's working on the player because if they drop too far below, they die. I'd probably just extract this out just to make it easier for me to remember. Fell too low. Oh, maybe something like that. Actually, I wouldn't do it as a variable though. I'd do that as a method. I just go bam, extract method, fell too low, something like that. So if it fell down too low or it died on its own from some other thing, then it calls death. Let's take another quick look at the enemy one. So enemy one, the is dead is going to return true if it goes too far to the left. That's what I said the first time, but I was wrong on it. So if it goes too far to the left or falls down, it dies. And there's probably another one, right? Was there a support destroyer? So support destroyer is dead. Okay, it's essentially the same. as the enemy, so if it goes too far to the left. But he's overriding the way the death works here, so it does something a little bit different. It calls into player support to remove him, sets the thing to not active, and then makes it not a ragdoll anymore. Interesting. So that all seems pretty good. It's a pretty nice use of inheritance here. I don't see any real issues. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So let's take a look at some of the other things that I thought were pretty interesting in this project. I'm going to go down into the scripts folder and then the interfaces subfolder. And if we look here, there are a couple things in here that aren't interfaces, like some enums and stuff. But there's actually some really good use of interfaces as well. This iController, for instance. Let's just pull that up. So it's a very simple interface with a single method, get input. Returns a bool, I guess. Let's take a look at how that works, though. So there's a PC input and a mobile input. And this, it looks like it's set up so that we can play on both PC and mobile devices, which I thought was pretty cool, pretty useful. So if you look here, there's a get input method that gets called, which on the PC version just looks at the fire to button. And what is that? Oh, and checks to make sure that limit x is less than input dot mouse position. So I guess this is some sort of a limit on how far over you can click. I'll have to figure out where that's coming from soon. And then it does a shot. Okay. Probably make sure that you're clicking far enough away. So we do a shot here, and that's it. Interesting. Let's go to the mobile version. Oh, hold on, let me go back into here. Shot point dot position. Shot equals true. Okay, then it's returning back whether or not it should shoot. Okay, so I think I might rename that from get input to like get fire or get shoot or something like that, just to make it a little bit more obvious what it is. And then here, just doing some similar stuff, but doing it all with touch input instead of the input.get button stuff. So looks pretty good. Like I said, I would just rename the method. Other than that, it's pretty neat. But let's look at where that's used. So this is in buttons.cs. And we've got a, what does this do? Tap panel, swipe button, player. Okay, so we've got the reference to the controller right here. Okay, and then in awake just initializes the controller as either a mobile one or a PC one based on the platform. And then I assume down here, yep, in update, shot just returns or is set to whether or not they pressed shoot for the platform that they're on. And then calls shoot cannon and passes in a state. Interesting. Oh, let's see. So this is really just setting the state of the cannon. And this part is a little confusing. Oh, okay. I think I see what this is trying to do. So this part I would definitely want to clean up just a little bit. Here it's just checking to see if they haven't launched the game yet. So when you first start off, you click to start moving. I don't know why there's a tutorial.step though. I didn't notice any tutorial-y stuff. Maybe there's something going on that I missed when I was playing it. But then it sets the shoot state of these weapons. So let's see. It sets the shoot state. If the bullet count is greater than 0, it shoots. Otherwise, it just does an empty. Oh. If shoot is false, it turns. Okay. This is getting a little more interesting. Let's see. Cannon muzzle flash. Okay, it's setting a trigger here. And it's setting a bool there for shooting. Okay, so it's just playing a constant flash and then stopping the constant flash when you release, it looks like. I think I would probably change this up just a little bit. I mean, right now it works, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But it feels like a lot of, it feels like there's just a lot of layers in here of a bool getting propagated all the way through a bunch of different systems. And I wonder if it might be better to just give some of these things access to the controller or access to a bool that they can just read for their state since they're all doing it. But I don't know. Maybe not. It just like I said, it just feels like a lot of a relatively big call stack here. We're just calling into a bunch of things every frame. There's not really a performance problem or anything, just a little bit confusing on how that all works. But like I said, it does all work, and it's pretty damn clean, so it's not bad at all. Okay, let's take a look at something else now. Oh, one of the areas that I saw that could definitely benefit from a little improvement was the pooling system. So if you look here, it's not that there was any performance issue with it or anything. It's just that it's not very generic. It's pretty hard coded to this specific game, and it doesn't really need to be. It's also using some LINQ queries in here that probably don't need to be there. So if you look here, it's there's an NPC pool class with an array of prefabs. Perfect. It's got a transform for the pool. That's fine. Generally, what I usually do is put the pool script on the actual pool object. But if you want to have the child be something else, that's totally fine, I guess. And then there's an enumeration for pool type, which I believe just has common and support. I'm not sure what that's here for. I mean, I kind of understand why it's there, but I think it's a little extra complication that probably isn't really needed. I really prefer to go with a very generic pooling system where I just give it a type and then I can get the type off of that. Although it does require often to use a base class for that, so maybe that's why they're not doing it here. But let's just go through the process of how the pool system works. So in start, it generates the pool. It goes through each of the possible prefabs, and then it instantiates it instantiates max NPC count of each one, and then adds them into the pool. And then when we go through, let's see, hide. I don't care about hide pool. It's just hiding all of them. But then when we call get NPC, it let's see, it finds the prefab's name and then does a string match in a LINQ query for one that's inactive and matches the name. I'm not a big fan of this just because name-based stuff generally sucks because things change names and shit breaks. But also it's just a little confusing, I think. I don't think it needs to necessarily have a name here at all. I think that each of these NPCs should probably just have their own pool or their own maybe a dictionary of cues that you can pull these things out of instead of a single list where you have to iterate through the whole list. Now this list is small enough. The initial size is like 6, I think, on these, so it's not going to be an issue. But if you get to a bigger pool where you have hundreds of things, you start pulling bullets or things where you have like I said, hundreds or more of these objects on the screen. This is going to be an unnecessary performance hit, and it's just a little bit messier than I like. So again, I'd probably look at cleaning up or re-implementing the pooling system a little bit better. The system that I like to use personally is set up so that I just give it the prefab type and then call a method on that to get an instance of it. It pulls it out of the pool kind of magically under the hood and then gives me back the exact object that I want. Since you want to do some randomization, I just have a spawner that pulls from pools that are separate. So instead of having the pool be assigning and selecting the NPCs right here in get NPC, I'd split this into a spawner class and then have the pools be things that this method calls into to get stuff out of. So this would be like an NPC spawner and then some pools that it can use based on the prefabs. I'll see if I can link to a video on how to do that stuff because it's a pretty big, long topic. Now let's dive back into some other things in here. So actually, let me just show side by side real quick because I thought it was interesting how it's playing. I'm going to turn off the audio though. And I'm just going to get the scene view here, kind of side by side, and zoom out. So you notice when we're going, let's see, there we go, that the character is still just slowly moving to the right, which is fine. In a game where you want to go on forever and ever, you don't want to necessarily move the player. you want to move the world. But here, I think this is totally fine. It's just moving the rigid body with velocity. Eventually, I'll get to the end of the level and reset. But I just wanted to show that, you know, you can do this where you're just kind of dragging along. Oh, oops. Going along the screen and just moving the objects. So if we look at these platforms, for instance, let's just grab, let's see, I have a hard time selecting things. There's too much in here. Let's see, let's go try to grab one of these. That's a background piece. Where's one of the platforms? Here we go. So grab a platform and let's see how these are working, because these are just, you know, respawning basically once I get past them far enough. So I want to figure out how that's done and just dive right in. So we've got a platform prefab, a length, interesting, some furniture sprites. Okay, I think this is for that the randomization that we're seeing there. And then we've got a left and a right value for the vector 3s. Okay, just getting the far left and the far right of the object. And what else do we have here? Okay, we've got a generate method. So generate, what does this do? It gets the X size of the sprite render. Okay, instantiates the prefab, and let's see, then it loops over. Okay, so this is how it's doing. What, are these randomly sized? No, I guess they're programmatically sized though. So we're getting platforms that are variable length because he's looping over and instantiating the next one and the next one, each offset by 1 meter. Interesting. And then, he's going off the right side too? Oh, okay. So it looks like he's going out of the, is this out of the center? Let me see. Now I'm not sure what this is doing. Let's see. Oh, right equals platform length -1 minus left. Oh, okay. Yeah, so wait, no. Let's take here. Let's just put a breakpoint here and see what this is doing. I think it would be easier if we just step through it. Easier to kind of understand what's going on there and how these platforms are getting built. There we go. We should hit that breakpoint. Oh, maybe I need to click first. Or maybe that method's just not even called. And I found something unused. Let's see. Yeah, that's looking like the case. Let's see if this generate method is actually called. Create platform and on, oh. Okay, so this is actually used in the editor, it looks like. Let's take a quick look. Oh no, and in this generate pool, what is this doing? Where is this called? So this is an object. Okay, let's just try this again. Let's see if we can hit that breakpoint. It looks like it's called in 2 places, so maybe my breakpoint was bad. Let's see. Minimum length. Okay, so we're creating some platforms. These are getting nicely pooled. We get that. We go into generate, instantiate the platform. We get a left of 2. Platform length is 5. Okay. Then we go through. Oh, okay, I see the difference. This is what I was missing. That's a plus, that's a minus. So it is building out from the center of the platform, creating all these little platforms here. So that's how we're getting the, here, let's just zoom back out, zoom back in here. So that's how we're getting all of these platforms that are getting created. Very cool. Let me find the prefab for that though, because I want to take another quick look at that. That's in, what is it? Object pool, object manager, platform pool, platform prefab. There it is. The tile. Okay, so this is just a little tile, the prefab. Okay, cool. So this is how it's done. It's generating, like I said, generating those platforms. And then let's see how they're getting removed. So now I'm curious about that as well. Let's see, and I doubt that they're actually getting removed. I said removed, but I think that they're just getting snapped over to the left, right? Like if I think when one enables, it is weird though that they're kind of selected semi-randomly. So let's find that object manager. This has got to be the place. Generate start, add platform with a bool of spawn. What does that do? Oh, okay, so this is the platforms get added. Let's go into here. So it looks like at the beginning and the start, it adds 5 platforms and sets spawn to false. Spawn, it looks like, is an option where we're deciding if we spawn those enemies that come at me. So if we want to spawn enemies or shields or something, spawn would be set to true, and then it calls into enemy spawner and bonus spawner if that's true. Very interesting. I don't know necessarily if I would make that a Boolean parameter or if I would just call that in the fixed update after this. Maybe. Because I guess the platform is getting generated in here. So yeah, I guess why not? That seems fine. So again, let's see how the things actually reset. That's what I want to figure out. So shift platform position equals that. Hide platform. Let's see. This is probably what happens. Oh. Okay, so it's in this. It's actually in fixed update. I just looked right at it a couple times and missed it. So if used platforms, the most. So this is the last one. Is less than X. Then it hides. Yeah, this is a little confusing because hide is just grab. Oh, weird. Okay, so generate point is a transform. Let's take a look here. Let's find that generate point in the project. So where's that at? So when the last platform hits this point, then we spawn the next one. Very interesting way of doing that. And I assume that that point then, let's see. Yep, that point is constantly moving. Here, let's hit W there. So you see that point is moving along. Yep. And then once the 5th one passes, so it's gonna be like once this one passes that point, I think we're gonna see this one disappear and a new one spawn at the end. So let's see if I can stay alive long enough for that. Let's watch. Yep, there we go. So it was when the center of that passed. Watch when the center passes it. Okay, that's an interesting way to do it. I think it works. So just moving that point along. I think if you're gonna move things along the screen, it seems like totally reasonable thing to do. Now, I also did a little bit of profiling with this project, and overall, it was really well done. There's not a lot of garbage creation, but there was, let's get rid of this breakpoint. There was one script, and it looks like that was a downloaded script that does seem to generate a bit of garbage, and it's every frame. So if we just, here, I'll just hit play and run for just a moment, and we'll pause it, and then just take a look at the GCalloc field. So right here, this spring manager.update is generating garbage every single frame. So if you go into mobile, eventually this is going to add up and become a problem. And this is actually done on the characters. So if we look at like spring manager, right here you see that each one of these characters, right now I only have 2 enabled and I'm generating a good amount of garbage. And if we keep this going, we're gonna spawn a bunch of NPCs. We're gonna generate a ton, and it's gonna cause some hitches on mobile devices. So I definitely either look at replacing that script or cleaning it up a bit. I didn't want to pop that one up because, like I said, it was something that was downloaded from another site or somewhere. So definitely check that out and see if you can replace that or improve it so that it's not generating garbage every frame. And then there's also a lot of garbage being generated by the UI. And what's happening here is just that this menu object, this right here, is moving along with the player. Let's just see if I can make it without dying. So you see that that thing is moving. It's causing it to update every frame, and that's why we're getting the, here, let's go back here. If you look under camera render, I'm gonna make this bigger. Was it right here? No, it was this one, not camera render. The post late update player update canvases. This is happening and generating even more garbage than that script, and that's just because we're moving this menu object along. If you just disable that menu object when they're playing and then re-enable it, you'll resolve that issue. Nice and simple. So here, let's just show it real quick. So play and start going and look at that. Here, let's switch to current. So look at the garbage right there, just constant at 2.3K every frame. But then if I turn off the menu, which still isn't visible on the screen anyway, it's just being moved out of the way, then that just disappears. So I highly recommend doing something like that too, just again to avoid any hitches in mobile play, building out to an iPad or an iPhone or Android device or whatever. You're not going to want those extra garbage collections, especially they don't need to be there. Anyway, like I said, I thought that this was a really good project. It's pretty well laid out. It's nicely organized. There's a lot of use of good inheritance where there aren't too many levels of it, and it's not in super complex objects. I'm not a big fan of a lot of inheritance just because it gets problematic starting to update, and you start to notice that you're using or having things in classes that don't need to be there just as a side effect of going inheritance first. But here I think it's a nice good mix of inheritance and composition where the things that should be inherited are, and then everything is kind of composed out of those objects. So it was really well done. Like I said, I love looking at this project, and it was pretty fun and pretty cool. So if you have projects that you want to see reviewed, please feel free to send them to me. I go through my emails, try to get them every day, and I try to get out as many of these as possible. And if you like these videos, or if you have comments about stuff that you saw in here that you think could be better, or that I missed, or was just wrong about, feel free to drop it below. I'd love to hear it. I probably did miss quite a few things in this project. It was pretty big, and I still liked it a lot though. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends and all that stuff. And again, if you have your own projects, feel free to send them over. I'd love to take a look sometime. All right, thanks a lot.